People say every generation is the same, but psychology disagrees. If you grew up in the 1980s, you were shaped by a world with less protection, fewer instructions, and higher expectations. You learned discipline before comfort, responsibility before validation, and patience before instant rewards. You handle pressure better than most people, and yet your mind never fully turns off. People see you as strong, independent, capable. But psychology says that's not the full story. You weren't born this way. You were shaped this way. The 1980s created a rare psychological profile, one that today's world no longer produces easily. And once you understand the 5 traits it gave you, a lot of your life will finally make sense. The first trait is what researchers call autonomy. Growing up in the 1980s, you probably didn't ask for permission before making life decisions. You think first, you decide quietly, and only later do you explain, if you explain at all. Autonomy is the ability to guide your life using internal values, not external pressure. Autonomous people don't constantly ask, "Is this acceptable?" They ask, "Does this align with who I am?" In the 1980s, traditional life scripts began to weaken. Religion, institutions, and rigid social roles stopped giving clear instructions. There was no longer one clear answer to what a proper life looked like. And when society stops telling you what to do, life doesn't become easier, it becomes heavier, because meaning is no longer inherited. It has to be constructed. So people growing up in that era were forced to develop an internal compass. They learned to rely on personal judgment, inner standards, and long-term self-trust. Not because they wanted independence, but because they needed it. That's why many from this generation are misunderstood. Called stubborn, distant, hard to influence. But psychology sees it differently. This isn't defiance. It's self-directed regulation. But it doesn't explain why pressure probably doesn't break you easily. It sharpens you. That comes from the second trait. Anti-fragility. Anti-fragility means becoming stronger because of stress. You don't just survive under pressure. You adapt to it and then improve. People from the 1980s were exposed to something rare today. Unsupervised time, small risks, real consequences. You fell, you failed, and most of the time, you figured it out yourself. The human nervous system learns through manageable stress. Just like muscles grow through resistance, psychological strength grows through challenge. Today, when stress is removed entirely, the system doesn't become safer, it becomes weaker. That's why later generations raised under extreme protection often struggle with discomfort, while you learned early that stress wasn't a danger, it was just a training. That's why in a crisis, you often appear calm, not because you don't feel pressure, but because pressure feels familiar. It tells you to focus, not panic. If you recognize this trait, it explains why hard times often bring out your clearest thinking. And living in uncertainty for that long did something else. It taught you how to keep going when others give up. Here's the piece most Gen Z will never understand. It's also the third trait. Psychology calls this grit, long-term commitment, paired with sustained effort. People who grew up in the 1980s don't quit easily, even when progress is slow, even when no one is watching, even when results don't show up right away. It's not motivation, it's not talent, it's continuing long after excitement fades. In the 1980s, effort came before reward. There were fewer shortcuts, fewer instant wins, very little public validation. If you wanted something, you worked for it quietly and consistently. Psychology summarizes achievement with a simple formula. Achievement equals skill times effort. Skill matters, but effort is the multiplier. And effort is the one thing you can always control. Failure wasn't seen as a verdict. It was information, temporary, specific, not personal. That's why you keep going long after others give up. You weren't trained to win fast. You were trained to last. To the people who grew up in the 1980s, success alone probably never felt like enough. You did what you were supposed to do. You worked hard. You stayed responsible. And still, something felt missing. Psychology calls this drive the will to meaning, the need to feel that life serves a purpose beyond survival and comfort. People can endure almost any hardship if they believe it serves something meaningful. People with a clear sense of purpose recover faster, resist depression better, and cope more effectively with stress and illness. In the 1980, traditional sources of meaning weakened. Religion held less authority. National identity felt less certain, and social roles were no longer guaranteed. Many people grew up sensing a quiet psychological gap without having words for it. When external structures collapse, the mind looks inward. People from this generation didn't inherit meaning. They had to build it through work, service, family, or contribution. That's why surface-level success doesn't satisfy you. You don't just want to move upward, you want to move forward. If this trait feels familiar, it explains why you're always searching for something deeper. You weren't trained just to live comfortably. You were trained to live meaningfully. Do you always feel that your inner dialogue probably never stops? You don't just feel emotions. You examine them. You don't just react. You ask why. Psychology calls this self-interpretation the habit of analyzing one's own thoughts, emotions, and motives. The goal isn't self-criticism. It's understanding. By the late 20th century, psychology entered everyday culture. Therapy became normalized. Self-help books exploded, and people were encouraged to look inside for answers. Especially in American culture, the idea took hold that the self could always be improved. When external authorities weakened, the mind turned inward for guidance. This often created high emotional intelligence. You notice patterns. You catch emotional triggers. You understand complex inner states in yourself and others. But it also came with a cost. When self-analysis goes too far, it turns into overthinking. Not every feeling has a hidden meaning. Not every action has a deep motive. Sometimes, the mind looks for problems that aren't there. If you've been told you think too much, psychology offers a different view. Your mind was trained to search for understanding, not just comfort. When you combine autonomy, resilience, grit, meaning, and self-awareness, you get a rare psychological profile. Not louder, not faster, but deeper. If you feel out of sync with modern life, too slow, too reflective, too intense, psychology suggests something else. These traits weren't designed for speed or attention. They were designed for endurance. You weren't built for a shallow world. You were shaped by a different one. If this video resonated with you, don't scroll away. Leave a small signal below. And if you grew up in the 1980s, you're not outdated. You're rare.